guys, and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be talking about 7-star awakening gems, and obviously there has recently been quite significant influx of them due to Cyber Weekend. Also in the banquet event we could get one if you get all the milestones. We will not be really discussing the Glorious Guardians awakening gem because that already got a separate video, and the main gist of this would be my own personal thoughts of which champions I would most likely look at, to give my awakening gems, and if neither one of those there, I would probably end up saving them. I currently have 2 awakening gems, the only 2, class awakening gems that I ever have had. It is Science and Tech class. So in the end of the video, I'll let you know what are my current plans for those. But meanwhile, let's go class by class. So let's start with the skill class. I think the most realistic candidate here would be Bullseye. I do not have mine duped, but overall he would definitely be a front runner. So obviously I don't have Bullseye duped, but if I get a gem, I would give it to him. There is a chance you could dupe him, obviously, but I do feel like Awakening does make him significantly better defender. More annoying, well, not significantly, but better. And I'd likely give it to him. In general, there aren't that many champions really I would want to awaken in skill class. It's probably my least wanted awakening gem of them all. Crossbones, if you're, willing to commit to that, and if you're decently good with crossbones, I think it could potentially be worth it. Then Massacre, primarily due to the fact that, it's quite hard to get him. He's not in any crystals, and if you do like Massacre, and back in the day, when you finish CCP challenges, picked 1 Starkey, 1 Massacre, and you do want to have yours awakened, and maybe him, but, it entirely depends on you. I have already mine awakened because I double picked from him from the, selectors. So other than that, in skill class, really, I wouldn't really feel great about giving the awakening gem to a Tuma, Killmonger, or Korg. I'd probably just end up waiting. Maybe a Mole Man, but he doesn't really need his sig that badly. Really, when it comes to, 7 stars in skill class, there aren't that many great targets for that. I wouldn't want to give it to Shield. Black Cat doesn't really need it either. So I'd probably just try and hold on tight to it in hopes of, a good use on a new champion, most realistically. Moving on. Tech class, I think Red Skull is well worth an awakening gem. He gets significantly better and easier to use once he is awakened. I don't think he needs a high sig. I think you can easily leave him at sig 20 or sig 1. That's perfectly fine. But the big ability that you're looking for comes at sig 1, which is every 10th basic attack grants Red Skull 1 armor buff. Makes him significantly easier and faster to use, more damage, quicker ramp up, all that good stuff. I do think he's worth an awakening gem. Tech class, Prowler. Somebody that would awaken as well. Unfortunately, his sig scales very, very poorly, and it's, very top heavy. So you would have to kind of commit significantly to giving him a ton of sig stones. But he would be one of the more realistic choices there. I think Omega Sentinel, if you do like the champion, and this is my own one personal kind of guilty pleasures, I really do like Omega Sentinel. I recently happened to do mine naturally, and I'm very, very happy with it. She has a solid prestige, and her awakening ability is quite good as well, giving her passive energy resistance for each personal non-damaging debuff on the opponent. So you can get a decently good energy resistance with 3 debuffs, up to 1k from max sig, but still. And then Special 2 can inflict additional prowesses against mutants, so more damage against mutants, and each armor up consumed by a special attack, there's up to 50% chance for Omega Sentinel to gain new ones, so she can maintain her armor as better. So that would potentially be an option for me. Maybe Jack. Now currently I do have him unawakened, but I do feel like he would be better awakened, significantly so, against Domino and Onslaught specifically. He does the job fine, but I'd at least think about that. Shocker, I think, is one of the best targets. He only recently became available in the base pool, so hardly anybody have it. And his awakened ability effectively just gives him more damage and makes him more annoying on defense as well. So yeah, I would absolutely give an awakening gem to Shocker. And the final pick is Starhand Spider-Man. If you do have him and do not have him awakened, and especially if you are into Battlegrounds, I would absolutely give Starhand Spider-Man an awakening gem. And there you go. move on to the next class. In Mutant class, I think the best target by far is Mr. Sinister. If you do not have him awakened already, his awakening ability is very significant and tremendously helpful. So, and SIG as well. I would SIG him up, because his SIG scales fairly well and it is quite meaningful. For instance, combat power rate increased from 5 to 20%. There's a massive difference. And as a defender and attacker, he gets more scary and dangerous. Then Dazzler. I think Dazzler absolutely has to be awakened. If you have her already, or if you're only about to get her, I would definitely consider her as an option. She is quite a good champion. And on top of everything else, as soon as you awaken her, she effectively gets to ignore physical damage from all the skill champions. Well, not just skill champions, but physical damage. And that immediately makes her much better counter to like Korgs and Atumas and Killmongers and stuff like that. And then if you do have the ability to give 6 stones to Dazzler, then she immediately becomes a bullseye counter. She's kind of a champion that kind of has to be awakened and high SIG. And in Mutant class, I think one of the best targets for it. Domino is still a solid option if you're unawakened. And then lastly, Onslaught. I don't particularly think he absolutely needs it. Onslaught's like the only, or one of the two kind of like prestige first kind of gems that I would not hesitate to use. Because he obviously does get better, increasing his daunted potency, and block unblockable special attacks from skill champions can occasionally be helpful for each non-damaging or personal non-damaging passive on the opponent. Onslaught special attacks gain block penetration. That's primarily a defensive ability, but everybody dexes him nowadays anyways. But yeah, I do think it's a neat, I don't think it's bad awaken ability, but primarily it would be prestige, because he's the highest prestige 7-star in the game, or one off. But yeah, that's just primarily prestige. Count Neferi in Science class, I think, is one of the best targets for it, because his awakened ability definitely is super helpful, giving you all that power gain and all that regen if opponent tries to do so. And it makes him into a better character, as well as Photon. I had to struggle through the life with my unduped Photon up until very, very recently. And I can promise you, Photon is so much more dangerous as defender if she is awakened and decent SIG. So Photon is a great target for that. Last one is a bit iffy. It's only if you kind of have all the champions already awakened. Because Spider-Punk, some people seem to be loving him really a lot lately, and he is kind of an up and up, but he desperately does need to be awakened. Don't think it's, the best target, but it's worth looking into if you do think you enjoyed the playstyle of Spider-Punk. In Mystic class, again, there aren't that many champions I'd rush to throw that gem at. And primarily that would be somebody like Kindred, if you're willing to see him up, because he absolutely needs it as a defender. Then Kushala, I think, is one of the best use for the gem offensively. She does become significantly better. She becomes easier to play because the duration of your blessings is lasting longer, so you have to stress less about keeping them paused and, doing the whole Kushala said type of thing. Get a parry, get a heavy, get an intercept. But this way you can play her much more normal. And then having her ability to transition into passives is obviously helpful too. Shatra is primarily, again, kind of for the SIG level, for the prestige, because she does benefit greatly from that. Obviously, she does become significantly better against Cosmic Champions, having more vulnerabilities that she can potentially inflict. And you do get regen, that's mainly a questing ability. And Enchantress. Enchantress just becomes more annoying as defender because her spell effects last longer. That means her miss ability lasts longer and everything else. And she gains a new power steal ability when opponents are immune to whatever she does. So, again, I don't think it's the craziest awakened ability ever, but, I'd consider giving it to her. Other than that, I think most of the champions are in the Mystic class are fairly fine, unawakened, or I wouldn't be willing to sacrifice a gem for them. For instance, Sasquatch. I think Sasquatch is just, solid, unawakened, or Chavez. Obviously, Chavez might add to this one, actually. I do think that Chavez, I would ponder upon that. If my Chavez was unawakened, I'd realistically probably also give it to her. Because I use Chavez a ton. I do think she's like one of the top 5 champions in the game, period, right now. Then Cosmic Last, there's an obvious choice. You know, if your Serpent's unduped, you get a Cosmic Awakening Gem. Sig up Serpent. I do think Scream is quite popular, quite good, quite new. And since Cosmic Last doesn't have too many crazy 7-star options right now, I do think her Sig ability does give her, you know, meaningful benefits against Spider-Verse heroes, against symbiotes, and against tech champions. All of these abilities do matter. Against techs, you reduce their armor up, ability accuracy, so that's neat. Against Spider-Verse heroes, you shut down their evade. It can be very helpful, and I do think Scream is picking up in hype quite significantly. Then again, there's an option. I'm not necessarily advocating for it, but if you do have a Cosmic Awakening Gem, you might want to consider using it on Maestro, so you get Titan Nexus kind of for it. It kind of depends what's more important for you, the Awakening Gem or a Titan Nexus, but it is an option that exists in the game if you have all the Deathless champions thus far and plan on doing the, you know, Deathless challenge in Korean objectives. Then I do think that Awakening Maestro might be a legitimate option, how to exchange your Awakening Gem for a Nexus Titan. And then Noah. I do think Noah is actually kind of underrated, and I would certainly consider awakening him and singing him up, because his Sig ability is very meaningful both offensively and defensively. Offensively, you do get significant attack bonus on your medium attacks, based on the distance traveled in the last executed dash, and that refers to both medium attacks, by the way. And also defensively, in the main abilities, the duration of your buffs is increased by up to 80%, and in some metas that's absolutely insane benefit. For instance, when Nova is going unstoppable, if you have some of these nodes where, you know, you go unstoppable for 4 seconds, every 8 seconds, or every 12 seconds, and then you get an 80% increase in that, you know, it can be absolutely crushing to face no one under conditions like that. So those are the champions that I would most realistically look at for a use of Awakening Gem. Obviously, you know, we all have our own preferences, and some of you might, you know, find value in others. For instance, like Hyperion, I think is a decent-ish target. I wouldn't necessarily want to give him that gem, but I do think, you know, there are plenty of people who will, because he's a great champion and benefits highly from being awakened, doesn't require many Sig stones. Some of the newer champions, you know, Sunspot for some people might be worth Prestige Awakening as well, because his Prestige is quite good up until rank 3, and, you know, so on and so forth. But these have been my thoughts. Let me know what are yours, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye-bye. Hello there, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about